So it's been a little bit since I've done a video, and it's for a very good reason. I got really busy. For those who don't know, I am a professional musician as of just 1 year ago, so I'm sort of getting the plane up off the ground, as it were, in the eminently affordable Bay Area, California. Needless to say, it's been quite the learning experience, and that's the nature of the video today. I wanted to kind of highlight some of the things that are the most interesting learnings from my first year playing music. What have I learned? What sort of are the most surprising or useful tips to kind of focus on going from playing more hobby-like to becoming a professional musician? So whether you're a professional musician or you're sort of pro-muso curious, hopefully you get something interesting out of this video. I'm trying to keep this on the shorter side as compared to some of my more recent videos, so with that, I'm going to get right into the list.
The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound.
So the first thing that I've kind of learned or has been reinforced to me is that it's extremely important to bring the right gear to your gig. And I'm not talking about guitar, looper, microphone, keyboard, that sort of thing, although obviously no show happens if you don't have that stuff. I'm talking about the things that are less obviously kind of thought of as musical gear. Things that let you play in different environments, things that let you be comfortable in different settings, that handle noise in different ways. So I'm gonna list these out in order of kind of the most commonly needed to the more fringe but very useful items. And the first item on that list is a very good cart. Having some way to get musical gear from your vehicle or public transit to your show is really important. My first gig ever was just about 5 years ago. I did not have that, and it was multiple miserable trips, and it turns out it was a rainy day, even worse, to get from my car to there and get set up. It adds a lot of time, a lot of stress. So having a really good cart, I use a rock and roller cart, is really valuable in terms of being able to reliably get from your vehicle to your stage. So I also would add to that bungee cords as well. And because of my loop rig, I have a separate Pelican case that I put everything in for all my loop stuff, and then a separate one for things like the PA and such. So I can actually take both together with me if I need to, some distance to get from the car to where I need to go. That's a huge, obviously I use that basically every gig. The other thing I use almost every single gig, and this is particularly notable as I record this in August in the Bay Area, is a fan. I actually have the fan on the floor right now, keeping me comfortable as I record this video. For me, the way I perform kind of standing up and bouncing around, but having some ability to kind of keep myself cool in hot times of year, whether that's indoors or outdoors, or even in the winter months, if a space inside is like too heated, it might be fine for the people watching you or eating or whatever they're doing, but it isn't necessarily gonna be comfortable for you inside. So I pretty much bring it and have it in the car at worst for pretty much every gig. The third thing is some kind of covering, especially, well, this is more for playing outdoors, but having a covering that handles sun and or rain, light rain. So now I don't play in kind of rain in general, but sometimes here on the coast of California, you get a lot of fog, so that sometimes can go quickly from like sun to fog to drizzle. And if I don't want to be preoccupied with the status of the clouds, I can have something over me. And so I started with a canopy, this kind of purple canopy. And I've more recently been using, I still have the canopy, but I've more recently been leaning into a off-white umbrella. The umbrella has become my go-to for a couple reasons. One, it's smaller and more portable, easier to carry and bring to gigs. And the other is being off-white, it's sort of neutral color-wise, and it doesn't clash with the decor of places I play as much. So either or both are quite useful. I would say if I could do it again, I'd probably get a canopy in a neutral color, but I do like purple, it's my favorite color. At any rate, that's a huge, it also is really useful as a looper because I need to be able to see my pedals in order to know what's going on. If direct sunlight, it gets harder and harder to see what's happening. So having the ability to kind of normalize the light level and the moisture is really valuable. Next on the list is heater. Notice it's kind of two after the fan in the list. And that's because I need it less often. I don't ever really need it in the summer, and there are some places I can't use it because of the power draw. If you have kind of a bad power, you're gonna find out quickly with a heater, they do draw power faster. But if you're outdoors in a situation where it might get a little nippy, especially if you use your hands in any way to play an instrument, you're gonna be really grateful to have that just to kind of, again, normalize and make you feel comfortable as you're performing. Next is, and this is a more, we're getting to the things I use much less often, but a generator. I actually have a Jackery generator that I use occasionally. I have a gig coming up this Saturday where I'll be needing that. And I just find it very handy. It opens doors that would otherwise be closed to me. Playing in places without any power access, being able to like run a remote speaker somewhere where there's no power, I'll get to that in a second. Very handy having the option of additional power. And I was able to, I got something called a kilowatt, which let me measure how much power my system was drawing, and got a Jackery to fit so I can run my music setup kind of in the middle of a field for 5 hours if I need to. Which again, just means that I can say yes to basically all gigs. And if I'm in a situation where they're not sure about power, and you should also have an extension cord as well, I would say, then being able to run off the Jackery as a backup is really handy. So it's just peace of mind, and again, opens different doors. The more I can say yes, the easier it is to pay my bills in the long run, so I'm happy about that. And the last thing on my list, and this is kind of a similar place to the generator, is wireless, a wireless speaker system. I use a system, I'll be putting it on the screen, I forgot the name of it, that lets me basically beam my signal from my PA or from my mixer directly to an additional receiver, 2 receivers actually, so I can actually run up to 3 speakers with my music in different rooms if I want to, or far away from each other. This is great in wide open spaces where people, where you don't necessarily want to be like super loud to kind of cover a space. Maybe you want to be kind of at a medium volume, but be able to kind of come at it from different angles, or more commonly, if say I'm playing in a private party and there's like multiple gathering places, then I have the option to run sound in multiple rooms where I'm in one place physically, but the sound covers other gathering places as well, which is again a nice thing to be able to offer clients when I'm doing private events or in any restaurant where it's useful to have sound in multiple places. And I've used it in both settings. So that's my kind of list of things when I think in terms of gear, just to open up different doors and make me comfortable and keep things kind of consistent for me. Obviously, kind of an asterisk, 7th item, backups of your main gear is also an important thing that you don't want to forget. Extra cables, microphone if you got it, mic stand. Literally that same first gig where I had to carry all my stuff, my mic stand broke, so that was, I may be a little paranoid, but I swear it's honestly come to. So with that, that's the first thing, just bring the right gear. Let's get to the second item.
So deep. You know I'm such a fool for you.
If you're a covers musician, take requests. I could see people objecting to this or having a different feeling about this. A lot of the time I am playing in the background in restaurants and bars where, I could put anything on my set list. I don't exactly have a show where I'm like talking through the audience between songs all the time, but being able to take requests really enables you to kind of create an engagement a la carte, if you will, where people can very easily, make requests. And it tends to be very good for tips. I actually was first introduced to this idea from a video from a friend and mentor, Christine DeMeo, who talks about her system for taking tips, and I should say taking requests and then encouraging tips. My system is a little different. I have I actually just recently redid these little printed items. These are little cards that have a QR code, and this QR code goes to something called Streamer Song List. Now, I started my musical journey actually on Twitch during the pandemic for the most part, and so I was using this as a way to take requests on Twitch, but Twitch also does support taking requests anonymously, which is what I use in the world when I'm doing gigs. So people can make a request. It can kind of show up on my phone. I usually have a clip with my phone on my mic stand, and then I can just kind of play the song. And this also lets me, and in this case I have on the back a little thing for taking tips as well, which is pretty nice. But taking requests, I think, does a couple very useful things. One, it's engagement for the audience, and I like that when I'm playing a song that at least one person in the audience presumably is going to enjoy it. That's just a very good feeling, because sometimes you did a song, you crushed it, but no one cares. So at least in theory, people enjoy the song. Again, great for tips. So the other nice thing I like about it too, and this is just something I'm kind of getting in the habit of right from the jump for me, is I like it when the shows are always different, and this is a way to kind of help that just happen organically. You know, I'm kind of building my repertoire and like adding things to the request queue as I go, and this is a way to kind of like, because I have a wide variety of songs people can request of me, I don't know what kind of show it's going to be until the audience kind of tells me what it's going to be by way of the request. So I personally find this really helpful. I need to do some actual like science on this and like do some measurements on tips. I have the data, but it feels like I get more tips per gig than I did prior to taking requests. There's one other fun thing, which is like on kind of a selfish musician side. It's a good way for me to kind of keep things in practice. People might request things I don't get to play that much, so it's encouraging me to stay in practice for my whole repertoire rather than kind of having a set list that I trot out that's maybe 40, 50 songs, and like the other stuff isn't getting any play unless I kind of think about it or cycle that. But also, if you have any kind of B-side favorite songs, I mean, I don't tend to trot those out. In like for me, that's like REM songs and like Bare Naked Ladies are like my pet favorite bands that I would learn their whole discographies. I think they're fun bands. And I have a couple of those songs in my request queue. And I don't typically trot them out, but if someone requests it, you're both kind of finding a common ground with an audience member because they also wanted an obscure song from a band that you love. But also it's permission to play a song that maybe you shouldn't necessarily bring out to a gig most of the time, but it's really fun to bring out every now and again. So that's my argument for me taking requests. I think it's super helpful. And again, having some kind of system for that to make it as low friction as possible, really, really valuable. I've found this to be great. This has been really, really helpful for me, and I'm excited. These are brand new. I'm excited to trot these out. Yeah, second thing, take requests.
Well, my heart must be better than I know myself, so I'm gonna let it do all the talking.
Third on my list, befriend or at least be nice to the people who work where you work. Again, I play at restaurants and bars a lot of the time, brew pubs and stuff like that. I always tease that I pair better with beer than wine. But the people who work there, bartenders, waitstaff, etc., they're sort of a captive audience whether they want to be or not. So I, just out of kind of human level, I want them to enjoy the show as much as they can. They might hate the music you play, in which case, well, you tried. But for instance, I do use these, let me get this thing again. I actually give one or two of these to the folks who are working at a place to see if they want to make requests as well, especially if I'm at the beginning of a shift and there aren't a lot of people to start. It just kind of provides a nice dynamic with the folks there. A lot of the places that I play regularly at, they know me by name, and they'll actually recommend you to the folks who are ultimately going to hire you. Another cool thing about this is that they can be kind of your ears in the crowd to make sure that you sound good. So I can check in with people and say, hey, is this the right volume? And they can thumbs up, thumbs down, help me kind of adjust that. It's just really nice to have that kind of friendly ear in the crowd as well. And one other kind of fun thing you can do, I'm in the process right now of really growing repertoire. It's another reason why these videos have been so far apart. I've been really aiming for trying to get to 150 songs by the end of the year. Well, we will see. But being able to check with people if they make a request for the song you don't know, and then you learn it, I mean, that just feels great for them, right? So I just think it's kind of nice to kind of be a tiebreaker too when I've got a lot of stuff to learn, and like give me a thing. Oh, cool! I wanted to learn that anyway, and then I try to learn it before the next time I'm there. It's just fun to do. It's nice. I'm playing music professionally versus other things that are less work and pay more, honestly, because I really want to bring joy to people around me. That's what motivates me. And so I definitely want to do that for the people who are there, not because they want to be there, but because they have to be there. And I think are generally really nice people. So, I would say befriend the folks who work where you're working is a big one for me. That's my third. So the fourth thing on my list, and this is a little bit of a twofer, is prepare to play quietly. You pretty much can't go wrong playing on the quiet side, but that's mostly true. We're gonna get to the why it's 2 tips in 1. But I've found that it's better to err on the side of being too quiet rather than being too loud. Again, I'm coming from the perspective of someone who's not there to kind of dominate a crowd and sell tickets to venues, maybe someday. but rather someone who's there to augment and create an ambience, to create a vibe where people are usually they're talking to their friends, they want to be able to hear what people are saying, and they don't necessarily want to be like wincing because the music is too loud for them. So I err on the side of being a little too quiet. In fact, one time recently I was at a gig handing out the little cards that I use for requests, and I said, hey, if you have any requests, I should say that you should walk around and hand them out to people, depending on your system or whatever. That's what I do. And one person responded, I have a request, don't play too loud. So that was a little jarring, but the point is well taken, because a lot of people are thinking it, they just said it. People don't want to be fighting over you to hear themselves think a lot of the time in most places. Some places the vibe is be loud, and if you play too quiet, they will tell you to turn up. That's fine too. But the other part of this tip, beyond just playing on the quieter side, is you need to be able to play quietly. And by that I mean, I personally have started using this kind of in-ear monitor system. I'll put a link to it. Basically, this thing has been fantastic. Using in-ear monitors for me means that whatever the volume of my PA is, people can they can hear me at whatever level is right for the space, but I can still hear myself. As a looper, if I can't hear my drum groove, it's really hard to do my job. It's also really hard, I think, for any singer or anyone who's playing an instrument and they can't, they're not, say you're playing electric guitar and you're so quiet you can't hear the guitar. You might overplay or something like that. If you might oversing if your vocal is too low. So being able to do that, not worrying about a live in-the-ear monitor, although I would say that that's definitely second best to in-ears, is make sure you can hear yourself even if your speaker's really quiet. Because sometimes you're going to be in a situation where it's so quiet you can't hear yourself. First time I used these in a quiet setting, it was actually in a living room setting where honestly my guitar was almost as loud, unamplified acoustic guitar was almost as loud as my loops. I mean, they enjoyed it all the same, but I was still able to hear myself and do what I do with this. Maybe in future I would just go acoustic in that, but looping is what I do. So yeah, being able to make sure you have some way to hear yourself in a quiet setting and being able to play down to the room, super valuable. You're going to get invited back more places. If people have to kind of wince or move away from you or complain to the management that you're too loud, it's going to make it harder to get booked again. So err on the side of too quiet and be prepared for it. So prepare to play quietly.
Oh, I'm on fire.
So the fifth and final thing on my list is to practice making mistakes. I wish it weren't so, but I still make mistakes even after doing this professionally for a year. And in fact, I probably make the same amount of mistakes per week as I used to do, but maybe fewer per hour, just because I'm playing more often. And I think that being able to navigate mistakes as a looper, there's a lot of capacity for mayhem, honestly. So kind of having a strategy how to recover from various common errors, maybe a bad drum groove, maybe an overdub you didn't mean to do. Again, that's from looping perspective, but there's lots of things like that. A more common one is if you're playing your instrument, singing, and for whatever reason the chords have fallen out of your head, just go a cappella for a verse or something like that, and then come back in when your brain kind of recovers. These are things that are good to practice. And I guess mechanically what I would say is if you're in a practice space and you're kind of just going through parts, rather than just hitting the crux over and over again, do practice playing songs all the way through sometimes too, and make sure that you're ready to do that. And if you make mistakes in that moment, that's your moment to practice making mistakes. Recover from it, keep going, don't stop and restart just because you're in a private studio space. So yeah, I would say practicing making mistakes, massive importance. And it's something that I think it's very valuable. In fact, I actually did a whole video on recovering from mistakes that feel free to check it out if you want to see from a looper's perspective, the kinds of things I'm prepared to patch in the moment and how I like to navigate some of those errors. Hopefully you find that useful. But yeah, fifth one, sadly, it is still important today, though I am a more consistent performer, it still happens. Just be ready to navigate mistakes and think about how you're going to recover from them. Sometimes you can play them off in a way that you meant to do it, or you can make them invisible. Sometimes they're going to be obvious and your audience will be delighted because it shows you're human. If you make them all the time, they'll probably get pretty annoyed. So yeah, obviously you have to measure that. But I think practicing making mistakes, learning how to navigate and recover from them is really important. So again, fifth tip, practice making mistakes. So those are the 5 things that I have learned that, I've learned a lot more, and I could do additional videos of this type going forward that really have informed my early experience being a professional musician. If you have any kind of things of your own that you would like to comment on, tips of your own, or any of these that kind of resonate with you, I'd love for you to kind of weigh in. Obviously, please do subscribe to the channel. I am still growing the channel. I want to say thank you to folks who have made nice comments on some of my other videos. They take a lot of effort, and I appreciate that people are getting value out of them, and I'm trying to kind of mix it up with things that are a little shorter and focused. In addition to, I will do some more of that when I have topics. So if you have also topics you'd like to hear me cover, please feel free. With that, I'm going to kind of end the video here. I hope you folks are doing well, that the summer has been treating you well, and that you have great gigs. You take care. Cheers.